Gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of SportsTalk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. It's our second to last episode of this season. Thank you for sticking with us all season long. I'm your host, Tyler Harper, and we've got a great show for you today. We've got Alec Costival making his SportsTalk Philadelphia debut, and today on the panel he is alongside Kevin Cook and Tommy McIntyre. We've got a fun, action-packed show for you guys, and by action-packed, I mean a lot of stuff happened this week. But here's my impression of Philly sports media right now. Tebow. Hey, Craig Berube got fired. Hey, the Phillies are terrible. Tebow. Yeah, Tim Tebow signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, in case you missed any of that. As you can see there, Tebow Mania running wild here in the city of brotherly love, signing a one-year deal. Alec, we'll start with you. Before we get into will he fit into this offense, before we get into will he make the team, before we get into any of that, you hear that on Monday that Tim Tebow signs with the Philadelphia Eagles. What's your gut reaction?
Really?
That's it?
Just really? Do you really need Tebow? Does anybody really need Tebow?
We offered him a contract.
I understand that, but this makes me think of 2 years ago when the Texas Rangers draft Wilson.
Russell Wilson.
And he's not going to play. I feel like it's more of a publicity stunt.
I don't know about that. But
Well, still.
Kevin?
I do see how he thinks that it's like a publicity stunt, but my gut reaction was yes. I mean, Tim Tebow's a great guy. He's a very good culture player, and I think that that's what the move meant for the Eagles.
I mean, why not? I mean, right now, who do we have a quarterback? We have a guy that has two ACL tears, or coming off two ACL tears, and Sam
Who
Bradford.
probably won't be ready for the preseason.
Yes. You got Mark Sanchez, who I have no idea why we gave so much money to come back. I think we could have found anybody else for cheaper. You have another USC quarterback in
Matt Barkley.
Matt Barkley. I'm even forgetting the name. And then you got Tim Tebow. Why not? He's our quarterback.
Hey, don't forget G.J. Kinney. He's been making that practice squad look good.
I don't
No.
even know. I really
yeah.
don't. But I think, I mean, why not? I think I've heard that he's improved in terms of his football passing ability. He's practiced over the couple years now. It's been a while since he's been in the league, if you think about it, really. So I think he's had time, and he's working, and he's going to bring in a great mindset, a great leadership role on this team. Obviously, it's hard to be a leader when you're not a leader on the field, but obviously a guy that's going to be a good character guy in the locker room.
You know, way back when Randall Cunningham was on the Eagles, his nickname was the ultimate weapon because obviously he could run the ball, he could throw the ball, and he was a very good quarterback, but he also come out and punt the ball in random situations. A lot of people are starting to wonder, like, if Tebow's finally accepting that while he may not be a quarterback, because that was the knock on him for a while, teams would offer him contracts as maybe a tight end or a fullback, but he would always say, no thanks, I'm a quarterback. Now I'm starting to wonder, maybe is he coming around to this idea of maybe being like an extra back on the goal line that could maybe do a trick play of getting the ball and then throwing it into the end zone. Tommy, do you think maybe that's in the cards, or do you think he's trying out to be a backup quarterback?
I think he's trying to be a quarterback. I mean, I don't think you practice all this time and you come back in the league if you weren't trying to be a quarterback, because I think he had a place in this league if he was trying to be something else. So I think this is a statement that he's trying to come back. I think this is Chip Kelly's idea of a project as a kind of a challenge to see what he can get out of Tim Tebow. And I mean, we don't know. We'll see, I guess, over training camp and see how he does. I mean, he's never been a practice quarterback. He's never looked really good. He's really just a game kind of guy. I mean, we've seen him when he was with the Broncos, that stretch of games where he would go off in like the fourth quarter. Until that point, he did nothing. But in the fourth quarter, he would go off and take the team back. So, I mean, really, he is a game kind of guy. And he always was really good in those, like, goal line, those red zone situations where you need to get the ball in the end zone, like two-point conversions. I think that's something they're talking about now in terms of the league may get rid of extra points and put two-point conversions in there in place. He could be a big part of that. He could really do that because with his ability to kind of throw and really just a physical guy that can run into the end zone, he could be a great factor.
Kevin, what do you think?
Like you brought up that he always wanted to be an NFL quarterback. I'm pretty sure he turned down a quarterback opportunity in the Canadian Football League because his dream has been to be a NFL quarterback. So I don't think that he's kind of bought into this being a utility guy. But with that being said, I think that if Chip Kelly draws up some wildcat plays maybe, and like Tommy said, for the they're talking about moving in the two-point conversion, then that opens up the door for a Tim Tebow playbook and for the Eagles to maybe use him in a new fashion.
Alec, what do you think?
Well, I've kind of learned just never question Chip Kelly. Honestly,
I think now more people are questioning him than ever.
well, obviously he has to have a plan. There has to be something there. You just don't sign someone randomly.
Let's hope.
Yeah, let's hope.
I don't think there was a plan. I'm still trying to figure.
Eeny, meeny, miny,
the more,
Tebow.
I mean, when you just get Tebow, I mean, you don't really have a plan now. Let's be honest. I mean, no one has Tebow in their plans. No one
I mean, they tried him out a couple weeks ago, so something was up.
That I don't know if that's technically plans. That's just like
Yeah.
you got a meal at like a restaurant. Like your buddy called you and was like, "Hey, you want to get some food?" And you're like, "All right." That was kind of like trying out Tebow. Like, "Oh, Tebow's in town. All right, let's check him out."
Yeah, but then you committed to that meal for a year.
Well, hey, I mean, it was a cheap meal, I guess.
Well, maybe not the most committed deal it could have been because, again, this is a one-year deal with no guaranteed money. So if the Eagles are not satisfied really anytime, including training camp and so on and so forth, bye-bye Tim Tebow, no repercussions. So does that put you at ease a little bit, Alec? I know you were kind of gave a hard reaction about the signing, but like, does that put you at ease a little bit that, all right, there's no guaranteed money, so if need be, he could just be written off the books, no problem?
Yeah, that's what we really have to see here. Is he actually going to be here at the beginning of the season? Is he actually going to be on the roster? You have Sam Bradford, you have Sanchez, and you have Barkley. Is he going to go into a third-string role, or is he going to go maybe backup, possibly, but I doubt that. I say the highest he goes on the roster is third string.
Kevin, I mean, this is a pretty safe deal, so good move by the Eagles.
Yeah, I really like it. Like you said, it's not a lot of money at all, and he still has to fight to get even onto the roster. As of this point, I think he will make it simply because they had plans to trade Barkley if they were going to sign Tebow, and they haven't done that yet. But you see a lot of players like Barkley get traded around draft time or even on draft day, and that's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that. I mean, a report came out after the Eagles signed Tebow that the only reason, well, one of the main reasons that held up the Tebow signing, because keep in mind he tried out with the team a couple weeks ago, was the fact that they were trying to trade Matt Barkley to, I believe, the Dolphins, and they just couldn't get a deal done. So, Tommy, we'll start with you here. Does this end Matt Barkley's time in Philadelphia, or do you think he'll at least see training camp?
I mean, we still have to see, I guess, kind of wait out and see how far along Tim Tebow is in being a quarterback, if that is what he's going to be. I don't think you just throw away Matt Barkley. I mean, he's still young in this league. He just came in, so I think it's a Chip Kelly guy. Obviously, he drafted him. So I think he's definitely still in the plans. I mean, obviously, if they're not going to just trade him for nothing, they're going to see if they can get anything for him. He hasn't really proven anything on the field, obviously. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Tim Tebow's definitely a guy that could win you some games. I mean, we've already seen it in this league. You kind of have to form your offense around him if he is going to – I mean, obviously right now he's probably best a third-string quarterback. But, I mean, could you get him to a point where he could be a backup? That's really the challenge I see Chip Kelly trying to figure out. Could he put him in a place where you could actually have him come in as a backup goal? So I think Matt Barkley's kind of on the fence right now with all these quarterbacks.
Yeah, I could see Barkley leaving because of the Tebow signing. Tebow, like I said earlier, that report that came out, and Tebow's now reportedly, Manowitz has said that he has really improved his throwing motion. Manowitz was a great recruiter in Alabama, I believe, so hopefully he's done his work on Tebow and that he's right and that Tebow can actually replace and do better than Barkley.
Ed Manowitz, LaSalle alumni.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And another
LaSalle
thing,
crowd, baby.
Another thing I really like is that I think that the Tebow, not only because of he brings the culture with him, as I said earlier, but that culture is a winning culture. He's arguably one of the best college quarterbacks ever, and you see they're bringing in some of these players like Maxwell just won a Super Bowl recently. So I think that they're trying to build this winning culture, and they've kind of gotten rid of some of these guys that Andy Reid had.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's only like around 11 Reid guys left on the roster. But I mean, like you said, Chip Kelly always preaches. We'd hear it when he was mic'd up on the sidelines last year. Culture wins football. That's the message he would preach. Alec, I mean, are you buying into this? Because the current Orca coach came out this week and said, just an FYI, this guy is not crazy. There is a plan in motion. Do you buy into that, or are you starting to see a little insanity in Chip Kelly here with the signing?
What I've always thought of Chip Kelly is that he's either crazy or crazy good. He's either going to win a Super Bowl or get fired. There is no in-between for me. I don't know which it is yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think in the next 2 years, you'll really see that like make or break. Because now, with all these moves, he's got his roster. So now if I'm Jeff Lurie, I'm saying, okay, yeah, there is no more middle ground. You know what I mean? Like, as we see Tebow stat at there, yeah, like there is no middle ground anymore. And especially now that you've already created a circus this offseason, now we bring in Tebow as one of the main attractions. I mean, I bet HBO is really mad that Hard Knocks is not in Philadelphia Eagles camp this season. So we'll be very interested to see what happens with this Eagles team. And, of course, draft time's coming around, so who knows? Maybe one more trade happens and a certain Oregon quarterback comes to Philadelphia. At this point, I can't.
We can only hope.
I don't know if I'm even hoping for that. I'm just wondering if it's going to happen.
What are they going to do with all these quarterbacks?
Good question, Tommy. We'll see. I mean, the draft is in a week, so we'll preview it next week here on SportsTalk Philadelphia. But right now, we move on to the Philadelphia Flyers. If you guys remember SportsTalk Philadelphia last week, we came just off of Ron Hextall's press conference where he said, well, Craig Berube's our coach for now, but if he's fired, I'll let you know. Guess what? Friday, the day after we tape, he let us know. Craig Berube gets fired. He is out of Philadelphia after 2 seasons, 75, 59, and 28 as Flyers head coach. Alec, do you like this move, or do you think Berube deserved more of a shot?
I think he could have used more of a shot. I mean, last season you saw development really in like a lot of players, especially like say Voracek really stepped up his game, and they could definitely have pieces for the future on this team. I think he could have used another, say maybe half season to a whole season, see where that went. They still don't know if they're contending or competing at this point, so I'm not really sure where they're trying to go.
Kevin, what do you think?
I don't really care for the move. Berube, when he was here, he's not the coach that makes your team better, but the team wasn't, like Alec said, wasn't a team that was going to compete for a championship. But with that being said, maybe you tried the outside of the franchise, you bring in a fresh person who has a different view, like Ron Hextall has, and hopefully they can team up and bring back a cup.
Yeah, I mean, I guess after the comments that Hextall made before he actually fired him kind of weren't shocking. So when he got fired, I was like, okay. It was kind of like wait and see kind of game at that point. When he got fired, I think Berube was a coach that did well. I mean, he was able to make the playoffs 2 years ago. So he had some success. I mean, obviously taking over from Peter Laviolette, a coach that was really loved in the city. A lot of people really enjoyed him, were shocked when he got fired. So to see now this kind of turnaround, we have another coach getting fired. The Flyers, just as an organization, we're trying to look at them and see, are they going to get some form of stability right now? They really have a lot of moving parts, it feels. Obviously, with the GM position alone, I mean, you have Holmgren, now you have Hextall coming in. So you have this whole changing of the guard kind of thing. And right now, I think Alec and Kevin kind of said they don't really know, the organization itself doesn't know if they want to win or kind of just develop right now. They're kind of in between right now because you have a guy like Ed Snyder that's probably saying we got to win because I mean obviously he's a guy that wants to win. He's an owner that wants championships, has dying one since the 70s. So it's like the fan base. So I think it's definitely interesting who they're going to get to replace Berube.
We'll talk about possible candidates in a second, but Tommy, you mentioned it. I mean, again, the day before our show last week, Hextall said, all right, if anything changes, I'll let you know. Well, 48 hours later, he let us know. So what do you think changed for Hextall in that 48 hours? Do you think he kind of knew and he was just in denial about it? Because, I mean, these two are close. And, I mean, he said that, like, it was really tough to let a guy who he considers as a friend to relieve him of his head coaching duties.
Yeah, it was probably, that 48 hours was probably a good time for him to kind of sit back, obviously ask the rest of people in the organization kind of like, what are we going to do here? Where are we going? What has Berube done for us? And where do we think he's going to take this team? And obviously, I guess they thought they were moving in different directions and he was not the right coach at the time. I think they believe that Berube's a solid coach that could have really helped this team if they had all the right parts. But the problem is they're in different kind of spaces right now and they have to kind of change the way this organization is going right now.
And I think another thing, too, is that it kind of seemed like, I mean, the only one who was really outspoken about it was Vinny LeCavalier, but it almost felt like after only 2 years, he was already starting to lose the locker room with his message. I mean, obviously, that's not a good thing after 2 years. I mean, if you're there for like maybe 5 or 6 years, then maybe that has some merit to it. But if you lose a locker room after 2 years, that's got to reflect on you as a coach at least somewhat.
Yes, definitely.
But now let's look at one of the coaching candidates, and this is an interesting candidate. We looked at Mike Babcock a couple weeks ago, but Dan Bylsma, yes, former Pittsburgh Penguins coach Dan Bylsma, who of course didn't have a job this season, but a very impressive resume nonetheless. 252, 117 and 32 with Pittsburgh. Won a Stanley Cup in 2008, 2009. Fastest NHL coach in history to 200 wins. This past winter in Russia, he took over as the U.S. national coach. I mean, obviously the team didn't do as well there as he would have liked, but even so, Dan Bylsma has a very impressive resume. Obviously, there's the whole Flyers-Pittsburgh history, which involved coaches getting on boards and screaming at each other. But all that aside, Alec, would you like to see Bylsma as our head coach?
I mean, I wouldn't mind it personally, and I think it would be a decent fit for this relatively young Flyers team.
I'd say it's a good term.
And I think he could be a good fit here. The whole Flyers-Penguins thing may be a fun thing to have to deal with, but I say fun very loosely. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's the right choice, but it could be a definitely interesting choice.
I'd agree with that, Kevin.
Yeah, I would like Bylsma here. I mean, like you said, he's got a great track record, very good resume. Bringing him in, I feel like that's someone from outside the organization. It would be a good move for the Flyers because it's a different direction, and they've been kind of heading in the same direction and just kind of hitting their heads up against the wall for how many years now, and I think a new direction would be best for this team.
I mean, I just have the images of like him and just the yelling and just the fight of having Pittsburgh versus Flyers all those years. It's kind of tough to see him behind the Flyers bench if he were to come. That would be hard as a fan. I mean, obviously his track record speaks for itself. He's a very good coach in this league for a long time. So in terms of that, I mean, if they feel that he's going to come with his team and really be a good, solid new face for the locker room, then it may be a good move. But personally, I mean, I don't know how much I want to see an old Pittsburgh Penguin coach the Flyers. It just is a little tough.
Yeah, it'd be so weird. I
Yeah.
mean, especially considering, like, obviously the Flyers go to the Consol Energy
Yeah.
Center a lot.
Exactly.
So, I mean, now granted, they've owned them a lot there in the last couple of years. But, I mean, what more to add fuel to that Flyers-Penguins fire than this former Penguins coach to go to the Flyers, probably get booed. Well, he'd probably get cheered at first, but then once the Flyers start winning, booed out of the building. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with this team. Personally, I think it's going to come down to either Bylsma or Babcock. I mean, because I know, like Steve Graham mentioned on the show a couple weeks ago, Mike Babcock is going to be paid a lot of money, and a leading candidate for him could be Toronto, who, of course, got rid of their GM, got rid of the entire coaching staff, just full out clean out in Toronto, and I'm sure they're going to more than happily break open the bank for Mike Babcock, whereas Vegas has both Babcock and Bylsma in the odds for the Flyers coaching job, but there's also guys like Todd McClellan, a guy like Guy Boucher, who formerly coached the Lightning a few years back. It will be very interesting to see what happens with this Philadelphia Flyers team. Ron Hextall says he wants to coach by the draft, which is only in June, so in a couple months we will know the Flyers' fate, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens if the Flyers are trying to do some sort of tinkering and get back into the postseason. But now we move on to the Philadelphia Phillies. We know what the Phillies are at this point, and it's kind of tough, especially considering we know what Chase Utley is, or at least what he's been right now. As you can see, 15 games, 120 batting average, just 2 home runs, 9 RBI, 10 strikeouts, 3 errors, which is just as many runs scored as he has. Guys, I mean, I know it's only April, but how concerning is it to see fan favorite Chase Utley, who we've held so high for so many years, really struggling out of the gate? Alec?
It is sad to see. I mean, he's not the youngest guy out there. What is he, 36 now?
Yeah.
I mean, this is his worst start to a season ever. Ever. And this is a long career for a guy who Philadelphia has always loved. And you just have to know that he's definitely declining and heading towards the end here. But hopefully he gets back on his stride, maybe. But last season you saw him start out strong. Maybe he can have a strong second half this season.
Maybe. Kevin?
It's very concerning. As you guys said, he's a fan favorite here in Philly. He's got the grit to play here, and he loves playing, and that's why the fans absolutely love him. He had a decent year last year, and we're seeing what could be age catching up to Chase Utley. Hopefully, it's just one of those slumps that he goes through every now and then. But Howard's been going through the same thing, so it could be their age catching up. And
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, to see a guy like Chase Utley really struggle right now. I mean, he is the last of this. Him, Howard, Carlos Ruiz, Cole Hamels. These are the last of that championship season, basically, of that 2008 squad. And 36 years old. It happens. I mean, you're going to start seeing that decline. Now, do I think he's, over with yet? No. I think he's hopefully, Chase Utley has a good enough swing, and the field has always been a problem for him lately, and the people have worried about that in terms of the field. But batting-wise, I think if he just starts to get it around a little bit, it's still very early in the season, you got a lot more time for him to, and it's not like they have anybody else that's going to fill in and do anything better, so it's like he's going to get playing time. So I think you're going to see hopefully some better at-bats, taking some more pitches and stuff of that nature, and he's going to get on base more, I think, down the line. But obviously this is the start of, it's already been the start, but last year was pretty good, but it started the decline for Chase Utley right now.
Yeah, and good on Ryan Sandberg to start moving around Ryan Howard and Chase Utley. We've seen Cody Ashe, who's been playing really well, hitting third now, and Howard's been moved from the cleanup spot, so Utley and Howard have been moved around. But like Alec and Kevin hinted at before, that Chase Utley can turn this around. We wouldn't be surprised. But then that's going to raise the question of, all right, if he starts to get good, could he be trade bait? But of course he has the no trade clause. Tommy, what do you think of the whole situation of him wanting to stay loyal to Philadelphia, wanting to stay here, but if he leaves, he could actually help the organization? It's kind of a catch-22, right?
I honestly don't understand all these trading of these veterans. We're not going to get anybody good for these. It's too late in their career. Like, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah, to get someone groundbreaking.
You're not going to get anybody groundbreaking for a 36-year-old second baseman that's on his decline. I just don't see any organization giving up a lot for him, unless he's going off, which obviously he's not right now. So unless he does a complete, turns it around, starts hitting like 300, hitting a bunch of home runs, then maybe you could see some nice piece from him if a team really needs him at the trade deadline. But, let's be real. He's not doing that. I don't think he's going to have the greatest season of his career, so I don't think we're going to get anything special for him. And this is a guy that is like our Derek Jeter. He's a guy that I want to see retire as a Philly. I would love to see everybody retire as a Philly, but the problem is these guys are just they're on such a decline, and we have to start rebuilding that. Eventually you have to cut your ties with these guys, but I would like to see Chase Utley stick around personally.
Yeah, I would too, but again, like moments like this, it just hurts to watch. Like someone tweeted out, I forget who it was the other night, but it physically hurts to watch Ryan Howard take at bats anymore. He had a home run on the other night, but even so, like just seeing all those strikeouts pile up like firewood. These guys aren't what they used to be, and it's just sad. And there's a reason that there's a lot of blue seats in that ballpark, and they're hitting record lows in attendance. But again, we'll see how the Philadelphia Phillies turn things around. I don't know. We'll check in with them again next week. But now we're moving on to the Fast Five. And, of course, how could it not be? It's a Tim Tebow-themed Fast Five. 4 out of 5 questions today are about the quarterback who went to the University of Florida. So, Kevin, we're going to start with you. Over under 2 snaps for Tim Tebow in the regular season under center as quarterback for the Eagles. Over under of 2.
Under center is difficult, but I'll go over.
You know what? That's a good point. But you think over?
Yes.
Oh,
definitely.
boy, this season's going to be a circus. So that's what Chip Kelly's going to be playing on the loudspeaker at practice, and the media's going to love it. Next question. Alec, we were talking about this a little bit before the show, but the Philadelphia Pretzel Factory already has Tebow-ing pretzels that look like Tim Tebow in his signature pose. How likely are you to order one, whether you or your family or whatever, to order one for these games this season?
Very likely.
How could you not, right?
These are fantastic. I don't know who thought of this and how they thought of it so soon, but that's fantastic.
Yeah, this had to be in the works for a little bit because they got this out the day he signed.
Yeah.
They had something out there. So I'm very impressed, and I'm probably going to cave and get one too. It's Philly soft pretzels. They're delicious.
It's a pretzel. It's just shaped like Tebow.
They taste good, okay? Tommy McIntyre, speaking of talking, we're going to you. Little Tebow trivia. What year did Tim Tebow win his Heisman? 5, 4, 3.
8?
Close. 2007.
That's
So close. More Tebow trivia. Kevin, how many national championships does Tim Tebow have at the University of Florida?
3.
No, it's 2. He had one, I believe, his freshman year, but he wasn't the quarterback. And then junior year, he was quarterback, and that was his Heisman year, and he won it. So 2 national championships, obviously a good college resume. But, again, we're waiting to see what happens here with Tim Tebow in the NFL. Of course, he has that playoff window his name where he just embarrassed the Pittsburgh Steelers. But who knows what's going to happen with Tim Tebow. And lastly, kind of an announcement / question here, but Tommy McIntyre, How excited are you to be one of the producers of Sports Talk Philadelphia next year?
It's going to be fun. I'm glad to come on and help you out, Tyler. I know you've been doing a lot, so hopefully next year we can maybe change some things around, maybe do a little something different. And
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about like different ideas, and obviously we'll talk more about that. But since this will be the last time you're on this year, just wanted to announce that to everyone that, I mean, if it wasn't obvious already, he's on almost every week.
I
But
know.
Tommy McIntyre will be helping me out next year for Sports Talk Philadelphia. And like you said, I'm really excited for this. It's going to be fun to continue to build on what we've done this year and just make it even better next year. So I'm very excited about that. So that concludes it for the Fast Five. But before we get to social media, next week's show, you're not going to want to miss it, ladies and gentlemen. I keep forgetting to announce it's the 15th year of Sports Talk Philadelphia here at LaSalle TV. It's a pretty big deal. So next week, I've got a couple former producers coming back, got a couple former producers sending in video to check in. It's going to be a lot of fun on us. We're going to reminisce about how they got their start here on Sports Talk Philadelphia. We got some great guests lined up to celebrate 15 years of Sports Talk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. It's going to be real fun, and you got to tune in. All right, so that does it for us this week. But as always, check us out on social media, facebook.com/SportsTalkPhiladelphia. You can hit us up on Twitter, email, full episodes on youtube.com/LaSalle56. They're all there. Trust me, you can check and have a lot of fun watching any LaSalle TV program on there. And so much more. Just hit up LaSalle TV on social media. So for Tommy, for Kevin, and for Alec, I'm Tyler Harper. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week for the 15th anniversary special. Hopefully our mics are off at this point.